Good day to everyone. Today, we'll be discussing about material self. The material self refers to the tangible objects, people, or places that carry the designation of my or mine. A Harvard psychologist in the late 19th century, William James, wrote in his book, The Principles of Psychology, in that understanding the self can be examined through its different components. He described these components as its constituents, the feelings and emotions that arouse, and the actions to which they prompt, self-seeking and self-preservation. The constituents of the self are composed of material self, the social self, and the spiritual self. The material self, according to James, primarily is about bodies, clothes, immediate family, and home. We are deeply affected with these things because we have put much investment in ourselves to them. The innermost part of our material self is our body. Intentionally, we are investing to our body. We are directly attached to this commodity that we cannot live without. We strive hard to make sure that this body functions well and good. Any ailment or disorder directly affects us. We do have certain preferential attachments or intimate closeness to certain body parts because of its value to us. Next to our body are the clothes. James believed that clothing is an essential part of material self. The fabric and the style of the clothes we wear bring sensation to the body, to which directly affect our attitudes and behavior. Clothing is a form of self-expression. We choose and wear clothes that are a reflection of ourselves. Third is our immediate family. Our parents and siblings hold another great important part of ourself. What they do or become affects us. When an immediate family member dies, part of ourself dies too. When their lives are in success, we feel their victories as if we were the one holding the trophy. In their failures, we are put to shame or guilt. When they are in disadvantaged situation, there is an urgent urge to help, like a voluntary instinct of saving oneself from danger. We place huge investment to our immediate family when we see them as the nearest replica of ourselves. The fourth component of material self is our home. Home is where our heart is. It is the earliest nest of our selfhood. Our experiences inside the home were recorded and marked on particular parts and things in our home. There was an old clinch about rooms. If only walls can speak, thus, the home is an extension of ourselves because in it, we can directly connect to ourselves. Having investment of self to things made us attached to those things. The more investment of self is given to a particular thing, the more we identify ourselves to it. We also had the tendency to collect and possess properties. The collections in different degree of investments of self becomes part of the self. As James described self, a man's self is the sum total of what he can call his. Possessions then become a part or extension of self. In semiotic analysis, objects function as a signifiers in the production of meaning. For example, clothes may have a simple functional meaning, to cover and to protect the body, but also doubled up as a sign. They construct a meaning and carry a message which, as a member of a culture, one can understand. All things, verbal or visual, could be viewed as a kind of speech or language. This means that objects can speak, and even the most ordinary object might be eloquent. Semiotic is the study of signs. This examines how words, photographs, images, and objects can work as a language to communicate a range of ideas, associations, and feelings. A sign has two elements, a signifier and signified. The signifier refers to its physical form, and signified means the mental concepts it refers to. Hence, objects are not just things but are reflections of the wider lives of communications and individuals. All this suggests that objects act as a complex system of signs which allows one to read meaning into people, places, and purpose. The theory of meaning of material possessions suggests that material goods can fulfill a range of instrumental, social, symbolic, and affective functions. First, instrumental functions. These relate to the functional properties of a product. For example, a person bought a pickup style of car for family and business functions. Second, social symbolic functions. This signifies personal qualities, social standing, group, or affiliation and gender role. For instance, buying an iPhone instead of other mobile phones. Third, categorical functions. This refers to the extent to which material possessions may have been used to communicate group membership and status. Example is buying or renting a condo unit in Makati City. And lastly, self-expressive functions reflect a person's unique qualities, values, or attitudes. These are people who may represent themselves by collecting objects with Hello Kitty brand. Others may express their favorite color through the color of their accessories. Effects of material possessions. Cash can have a serious bearing on one's belief regarding the way a people view himself or herself. There are numerous pieces of scientific evidence behind the idea that money can truly change people. First is social business and value. In 2004 study proved that money alters how you value your time and effort. Researchers James and Dan created an experiment by which they could measure how motivated a person was to complete a task based upon money. Subjects were asked to drag circles across a computer screen. One group was asked to do things as a favor. Another group was asked to do it for $0.50 and the last group was offered $5. After timing the subjects, it was actually the group asked to perform the task as a favor that did it the fastest. Next was the $5 group and the last was the $0.5 group. In conclusion, there are two motivations for completing a given task. First is social. By recognizing a task as a social value, we see it as a worthy investment of time and a part of our social duty. We are usually happy to help out. When money is offered as a motivation, we then start thinking less of the social aspect and more about the business value. It is clear to see that money can be a motivator when it comes to determining value. While doing something for free as a favor has a positive connotation, that part of the brain is effectively turned off when money is introduced. If you feel like you deserve more money, you may underperform as a result. Second, self-sufficiency and service. 2009 Yale School of Management study find that those who are conscious of money typically strive to be more self-sufficient than those for whom money isn't a priority. The study was structured around monopoly money. One group of subjects entered a room that had several reminders of money such as monopoly cash on the table, statements about money, and even financial conversation. The second group of subjects entered a room where money wasn't mentioned, and both were issued a test. When given a very difficult and even impossible task, with instructions that help was available, it was money-related group that seemed the most intent in getting the job done alone, even when it was not possible to finish the task solo. The non-money group, on the other hand, tend to ask for assistance. The study concluded that money-conscious individuals are more self-sufficient than their peers, particularly when money is made the focus. The study continued to measure how money affected a person's behavior by using the same groups to illustrate compassion and service in both money-conscious subjects and other subjects in a money-free environment. When a seemingly uninvolved person crossed their path with an armload of folders and pencils and then dropped them, it was the group that wasn't reminded of money that was the most helpful. The money-conscious group was both less likely to offer and seek assistance with a task. Third is self-view. The amount you earn could have an effect on how you view both yourself and others. A study published in August 2013, issued of the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, asked individuals to rate things such as class, genetics, and even IQ. When the results were analyzed, they were defined as an individual's sense of class essentialism. The idea that differences between classes are based upon identity and genetics rather than circumstance. The wealthiest respondents were those with the deepest sense of class essentialism. Poor people tend to believe that class was not related to genes, that essentially anyone can be rich and anyone can be poor. Rich people, on the other hand, were more likely to believe that wealth was part of genes and identity, that they were entitled to wealth based upon their personal circumstances and actions. Wealthy respondents also believe that more or less life is fair and people mostly get what they deserve. Fourth, ethics. A 2012 study published in an issue of Proceedings of the National Academy of Science in the United States of America asked if wealth and perceptions of higher class could increase the individual's involvement in unethical behavior, from cutting off another vehicle at a stop sign, to cheating at a game, to taking more candy than offered. The wealthiest subjects were those most likely to break the rules, even when a researcher indicated that taking more candy would result in less for children. The study noted that those who perceived themselves to be in a higher class were the most likely to engage in unethical behavior, particularly when a symbol of wealth was introduced, such as cutting off a pedestrian when in a luxury car, for example. The study labeled the behavior self-interest maximization as an idea that suggests that those who have most money or occupy higher classes are more likely to take what's in it for me attitude. They actively work toward the most benefit for themselves. The study points out that these individuals make excellent business leaders since they often work the hardest to get the most out of a contract or job. And lastly, addiction. Many addictions begin because a person gets a positive response from a certain type of behavior. Whether it's a happy feeling you get from shopping or a thrill that comes from gambling, actively seeking out that behavior again and again for the same outcome can trigger an addiction. This is called a behavioral or process addiction. A compulsive behavior not motivated by dependency on an addictive substance, but rather by a process that leads to a seemingly positive outcome. Earning money can be very addictive for some individuals. That a big check or a well-padded savings account can become the sole purpose of wealth searcher's life. As warned by Dr. Tian Dayton, a clinical psychologist, she warns that the positive feeling that follows obtaining money can cause a chemical reaction in the brain that feels good. In turn, it can result in a severe preoccupation with money and put a strain in relationships outside of those that relate to earning more. Economic self-presentation and identity. Economics is defined as the study of things that a person is lacking, of how people make use of things that they have, and of making the right decisions. This refers to the condition of the person, group, or region as regarded to material prosperity. Economic self-sufficiency is the ability of the individual and families to consistently meet their needs with the minimal or no financial assistance or subsidies from private or public organizations. The said needs include food, housing, utilities, healthcare, transportation, taxes, dependent care, and clothing. The following are the determinants of economic self-sufficiency. Job stability. This refers to individuals that have sustained employment. Health or disability status. Individuals with physical, cognitive, mental, sensory, emotional, or development capacity concerns participate to the fullest extent possible at school, at work, or through meaning daily activities. English literacy. Individuals have the ability to speak, read, and write the English language. Family structure. The stability of families and attributes of parents influence development of positive behaviors and healthy relationships. Community connections. Individuals have community relationships to people or organizations that bolster self-sufficiency, or in the case of future self-sufficiency. Educational attainment. This refers to the individual reach their employment goals through academic or vocational achievement. The symbolic motives. The first symbolic motives is the status motives. This is the extent to which people believe they can derive a sense of recognition or achievement from owning or using right kind of product. Can be an important motivator of behavior. Materialism is the importance ascribed to the ownership and acquisition of material goods in achieving major life goals. The second symbolic motive is affective motives. This is a concept used in environmental psychology which serve as a motivator of pro-environmental behavior. In relation to the economic self, people buy the goods not only because they think they need it, but more so because of the joy and happiness of buying the goods provided through mere acquisition of it. I have, therefore I am. Comparing ourselves with others, wanting to believe them or be in their position, will lead us to constantly feeling dissatisfied and never happy with what we have. This is what consumerism wants because it makes people active consumers on a regular basis. Thus, consumerism not only affects our behavior, it also affects our thinking process. The six main problems with consumerism are: it is intrusive, it is manipulative, it cannot provide many of the things that are important to us, it restricts our choices and lives, it affects our worldviews and characters, and it is unsustainable. Consumerism is intrinsically woven into the fabric of modern society. Society needs a cultural shift to move away from the culture of consumerism. Social change do not happen overnight. Therefore, it is best to take immediate steps in our own life to release yourself from the grip of consumerism. How to avoid the trap? First, we should exercise intellectual independence. We should be aware of how consumerism controls your life. Try to defend yourself from unwanted external pressures. Think of yourself. Question all information to you and start looking for information yourself. Consume less and live more. Stop and think about the influences of consumerism in your life. Think of what really matters to you and how you want to live it. Strive to live the life you want and not others you think ought to live.